So welcome to this week's Optimum Health Clinic Facebook Live. And this week I wanted to actually respond to a question that someone had asked it was either in the comments below, I think it was last week's video, or it was, I think it might be a discussion in the Optimum Health Clinic Facebook group. And they were asking about the Optimum Health Clinic's perspective on the lightning process. And I didn't want to right now specifically do a video just on that. I thought it'd be more interesting to broaden it to some of the other psychology-based approaches for ME chronic fatigue fibromyalgia. So things like the lightning process, reverse therapy, Mickel therapy, EFT, the Human Givens approach, NLP, and lots of other acronyms and different kind of things. And, obviously, I believe that psychology can be extremely helpful for some people on the path to recovery. Probably helpful actually for the majority of people. But I think to kind of just start with, one of the fundamental issues is this group of illnesses are not psychological. And therefore, if you've got real physical things going on in the body, sometimes, yes, you can shift what's happening in the mind and the emotions, and that will have a significant impact on the body. And other times, it won't. And understanding what's happening physically is often crucial, and often it needs working with on that level. And because over the years there have been a minority of people that have engaged with some of these sometimes marketed as kind of miracle cure psychology approaches, and have had these miraculous kind of shifts and transformations, they've then kind of ended up being kind of marketed as this is the answer, this is the cure. And the kind of one of the dangers of that is people then try that approach and it isn't a miracle for them, and they end up blaming themselves. And I'm sure I've said before on one of the Facebook Lives that when something doesn't work, people normally blame one of three things. They blame themselves, they blame the therapist, or they blame the form of therapy they're doing. And I always think it's much better you blame the therapist or the form of therapy than you end up blaming yourself, because then you come away worse off than you were when you started, which is you've now got a sense that it's your fault. So to kind of jump into a little bit more kind of why this is, I think, kind of important to understand, is in the Optimum Health Clinic model, there's more to it than this, but some of the key kind of building blocks that we break the psychology down into. We talk about the maladaptive stress response. So the body being in the exact opposite state that it needs to heal. So put in other words, a kind of overstimulated sympathetic nervous system, which has all kinds of impacts on the immune system, the digestive system, the endocrine system. We can do other videos talking about that in time. But just for now, the maladaptive stress response. And then in the OHC approach, we talk about subtypes, or what we call predisposing factors. So we talk about the achiever pattern, the helper pattern, the anxiety pattern, and the trauma pattern. We then also talk about different types of tiredness: physical tiredness, emotional tiredness, mental tiredness, and environmental tiredness. We then talk about different stages of recovery. And I know sometimes if someone first comes into the kind of Optimum Health Clinic world, it can feel a bit like you're learning all these new maps and all of these different models. But these maps and models are, especially when trying to understand things like this, are really crucial. And in many ways, these maps and models came out of our own attempts as practitioners to try and make sense of and understand these things. And what you find is generally these different psychology methods will approach different pieces of the jigsaw. So, for example, the lightning process, which had a huge amount of profile from kind of 2005 for about 5 to 7 years, had a huge amount of profile. It was actually my book, the first edition of my book, which was kind of the thing that started that, and I obviously have some mixed feelings about that. Can help some people. We have a way in the Optimum Health Clinic taking the principles of that, which we use, I think, in a much more kind of collaborative and a much more strategic way to understand the bigger picture. But what the lightning process basically is doing is coming from a perspective that ME chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia are basically a maladaptive stress response issue. And if you turn off the maladaptive stress response, everything else will come good and heal itself as a result of that. It's true for some people. I would say it's not true for the majority of people. And sometimes what's happening is there's maladaptive stress response, you switch that off and you feel better, and then you end up doing a lot more than you should be doing and ignoring other physical things that are happening and going on. You then have things like Mickel therapy and reverse therapy, which are very, very similar versions of the same thing. And the human Givens approach, which is more traditionally been used around depression, but has been used a bit around ME chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, has some similar elements as well, which is basically to kind of summarize it, that symptoms are being created because we're not in touch with our emotions and our feelings. And so they will come at it much more from learning to listen to your feelings and emotions and respond to those in a more healthy way, and then not generating symptoms as a result of that. Something like EFT tends to be looking much more at the emotional trauma element of what might be going on. And so what you start to see is different parts of psychology approaches tend to be targeting different parts of the puzzle. You know, we talk at the Optimum Health Clinic about the importance of solving your puzzle. And you get miracle stories when someone's got a particular puzzle piece in isolation which has not been dealt with. They use an approach, it solves that puzzle piece, the rest of the puzzle's already been solved or kind of hangs off that piece. Then you get the kind of miracle story. My experience, and I'd say my experience is reasonably educated after the Optimum Health Clinic, working with literally thousands and thousands of people in whatever it is now, 35, 40 countries, is the majority of people have more than one puzzle piece that's going on. And you need to approach the right puzzle pieces at the right time. It's like having a code for a safe. You can have the right numbers in the wrong order and the safe still won't open. And so, you know, if, for example, somebody is at stage 1 of the 3 stages, stage 1 being the crash stage, stage 2 being the tired and wired stage, and stage 3 being the reintegration stage. Someone's at stage 1 and use something like the lightning process, then you're probably going to do more damage than you're going to do help. Someone's at the latter stages of stage 2 into stage 3, and they don't have any other jigsaw pieces, you're going to have a much more positive result of doing something like that. If someone has a significant helper subtype, and that's the primary issue that's going on for that person, and you do something like Mickel therapy or reverse therapy, then you're going to get a more positive result. If somebody has significant maladaptive stress response, and you try and deal with that by listening to their feelings, you're going to drive them around the bend because they're not going to be able to feel their feelings because of the overstimulated nervous system. If someone's got unprocessed emotions or trauma, and you work with EFT, you're going to get some good results. But if that person is at stage 1 and you start moving and bringing up more emotion, you're probably, again, going to do more harm than good. And so it's always very tempting when we come across different approaches and people that have had, you know, amazing recovery stories, when we, you know, of course, we're desperate for something to help us to kind of latch on to this must be the thing that's going to make the difference. And my kind of word of really caution around this is the importance of understanding the wider map. That, you know, you've, for example, understanding maladaptive stress response, understanding different subtypes, understanding different types of tiredness, understanding different stages of recovery. You know, to use types of tiredness as an example, if someone has significant environmental tiredness and you use something like reverse therapy, you're going to probably have quite a positive impact. If someone has significant physical tiredness and you treat it like environmental tiredness, i.e. changing the environment, changing the activity, again, you're going to do more harm than good. And so, you know, this has taken, you know, certainly getting the fundamentals of this clear took us a decade of treating people and treating thousands of people and scratching our heads and trying to figure it out and trying to make sense of it. And, you know, I would say that, you know, this map of these different kind of jigsaw pieces is just crucial, just absolutely crucial in the wider picture. And it's also why we've been so prolific in trying to make this stuff available through videos like this. You know, there are videos you'll find in, you know, snippets on Facebook and YouTube on all of the things that I've been talking about. secretsrecovery.com, it's currently at £97, which has all of this stuff laid out in significant detail. We've tried to put that stuff out as much as we can so people can try to make their own sense of what's happening. And obviously, working with a practitioner at Optimum Health Clinic, we can take a lot of the guesswork out of it for you because we understand the map so deeply. But we also just want to make the knowledge and make the understanding available. So, I would say always be cautious of anyone that is saying this is the answer, or this thing is getting miracle results. Because I would always say it's getting miracle results with a minority of people who specifically that's the jigsaw piece that needs attention. And rarely is it that simple for people. Normally there are multiple jigsaw pieces that are physical, psycho-emotional that are happening that need dealing with in the right time, in the right way, with the right experience and the right approach. And of course, I wish it wasn't that complicated. And we all wish it wasn't that complicated. But it is complicated, but the map makes it less so. It's like if you were going to navigate from, here to, in fact, my wife and I were at a wedding in Italy at the weekends. And we had a 3-hour drive from Pisa Airport down to the wedding in Tuscany. And simply pulled out my phone and put the destination into Google Maps, pressed a button, and it navigated us literally 200 kilometers across Italy to the door where we were trying to get to. Great map, great tool, made it really easy. If we hadn't had Google Maps and if we hadn't had a good map, it would have probably just been like any trip that we all remember as a kid when our parents are trying to navigate us from, on a holiday and getting lost and ending up bickering and arguing because you had a crap map. And so the better the map, the easier it gets. And that's why I think the map is so important. So just a few people, because coming to questions, because I think I've probably given enough, each of these areas like the lightning process, Mickel therapy, reverse therapy, EFT, human given, psychotherapy, NLP, each of those could be their own, their own video. Maybe we'll gradually do a series of some of that stuff over time. But if you want to ask a few questions, I'm happy to answer. I'm just going to jump back up. There's a few questions here. So Florence says, yes, have them all, but no help in Northern Ireland. Florence, it's important to remember that the majority of people we work with at the Optimum Health Clinic, we never see in person. We do a huge amount of work by telephone and video Skype. We have patients in, it must be probably over 40 countries now around the world. So yeah, location is not an issue. If you want to explore more, then please do reach out to us. Helene says the map is genius, so helpful. Thank you. Let's just say it wasn't a quick or easy path to figure out the map. Catherine saying, where's the best place to get help for fibromyalgia? Like a clinic or just someone who is known to specialise in it? We have a huge amount of experience working with fibromyalgia as well. So please do reach out. What about acceptance and commitment? So acceptance and commitment, I put it in slightly different words. And again, this is probably another video, but just to give a headline, I used to do a whole thing around the C word and the S word, and the C word and the S word are not what most people think they are, commitment and surrender. And we need a balance of those two things. You need to be able to be committed to follow through, to be consistent, to do things which are challenging, but you also have to surrender and let go at the same time. And balancing those two qualities is definitely a process and a journey. And again, that's something with good practitioners' help we can be supported in doing. Just if there's any other questions, feel free to post them now. Just while you're doing that, I know we had a bunch of emails to the office today that the sign-up page, the kind of details of the new secrets. Paula says, you look tired, Alex. I am tired today, dare I say. Between a 14-hour wedding on Thursday and then flying to Italy for on Saturday, wedding on Sunday until the early hours, then flying back on Monday, and then long work days. So proof that you can be a fully well-recovered human being and you can also get tired and get bags under your eyes. So there you go. And Florence says, I got very tired, my neck hurts every day, headaches, pains in chest, depressed, currently I feel ill. Florence, do reach out, see if we can give you support and help you. So thank you, everyone. I hope that's been useful. Yeah, let me know any questions or suggestions for the video for next week. Thanks for watching.